Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm here in Hanoi. We're going to be taking a look at some different gardening practices with natural water gravity flow through. But in the meantime, I'm going to take you through what I'm doing in an urban garden setting in the middle of a city. Move from a smaller garden into a larger garden where we're going to do some vertical farming. So I want to show you the first month's results and see how we went from absolute emptiness into being able to generate several kilograms of greens and fresh vegetables for the first month. Come along, I'm going to take you through my urban garden right now, and we're going to watch a train come on by here in Hanoi. And from my last adventure with an urban garden, balcony was a little too small, a lot of different problems with over drying, being too wet, everything was done by hand. I didn't have any automated systems. I was still able to pull at least enough for one single salad every single day, and that would be enough to keep your vitamin intake up and running. And also another problem was because the plants were a little bit stressed due to too much moisture, too much heat, these caterpillars from the white butterflies ended up eating almost all the lettuce routinely, and that was one of the problems that was encountered. So I ended up moving to a different part of northern Taiwan. This is the balcony that I currently have. South facing, so the sun comes in after 10 a.m. and then tracks all the way through the sunset. And I know you're wondering, what's that view look like over the balcony there? It's up on the 14th floor. This is what it looks like off the east side, if you will, a little bit southeast. And then looking directly west, where you see the mountains tapering off out there in the distance, that's the seaside. That goes right into the ocean. So we do get some sunsets from the balcony. They're interesting depending on what kind of fog or clouds or pollution's in the city. Beautiful though, deep reds, and that's the view that I have so far. So now back to the balcony. 30 days ago it looked like this, completely empty. Day one when I moved into this new place. Here's what it looks like 30 days later. After getting the vertical grow tube system set up, automated watering, setting up some terraced pot growing areas along with the sprouts. This is the approximate amount every single week that's coming out of that setup that I have in the garden at the moment. Now as it goes through week 6, 7, and 8, this is going to exponentially increase. I've had several of you ask me how much does food cost out in Taiwan. So I laid this out here. This was $12 US equivalent. I know the photo's a little bit blurry up on the vegetables at the top, but we get 2 dozen eggs, got the garlic down there, the cilantro, a couple different types of beans, bush beans, string beans. You got the bok choy, the ears of corn. So about 12 bucks for all of this. Now, the first thing I wanted to do when I was out there to set up the garden was start sprouting seeds of trays. Remember, the red beans are the most difficult. I've always had trouble with red beans sprouting. But another thing to contend with is because it's an open balcony, you see that splatter on the wall? That's actually from the rain that was pelting off of these trays. Now you're looking at mung beans here that I was growing out. So we're trying to think of the simplistic solutions. When we went to the market, in the fresh market, there's actually roots on some of the fresh greens that they're selling. So what we did is we bought the ones with the largest roots still on, the plants that we're using for cooking food, saved the roots, just repotted and planted them right in there, and boy, they start growing right away again. But as you can see, incredibly wet when the rains came down. We're thinking about a cover to try to have something you can reel out and then cover when the heavy rains start. Sprouting's been going pretty well. Different types of radish sprouts. We got cow peas, black-eyed peas, mung beans on the right there starting to fill out. Then after about 7 days you get this nice bushy type of green leaf cover here. Trim it off. You're ready for salads, ready for steaming, cooking, anything that you like. Here's some of my favorites here. Supple. I like the softer stems versus the harder types of beans when you let them go a little bit too long. Little trays, any place you can sprout, you can definitely get it started. So back to these beans. Now, when we started cutting these, they were a little stringy, and we had quite a few extras that we didn't eat. So instead of wasting them, starting to think about other ways to just transplant them. So what's happening, they're turning into bush beans right in these larger pots. So you can see anything that grew too large that we couldn't consume, just retransplanting to let them grow back to seed, because this is the next thing. Is great, we can sprout, we can grow some things, but how do you get that seed source? I've had so many of you ask, what happens when we get into a real food scenario here where food's more scarce, if you will? Seeds aren't going to be that available either. So how do you grow back to seed so you can have enough of your own seed supply to continue sprouting and regrowing for next year? So far, again, back to the food harvest. This is daily right here. This is about as much as we're getting per day coming out. And you notice some of these leaves off of the cowpeas are a little bit big, steaming those up, rolling them in with some other things like rice, and it does work with bread. Now, Moringa oleifera. Been talking about this superfood tree. It is called the miracle tree, and I highly suggest to check out what the miracle tree, Moringa, that's Moringa, is, what it does, what you can do with it, and how it can help you in your life, especially nutrition-wise. So here, I bought a big bag of these seeds. You can see they have these paper triangles on them. This really soaks up the water well. If you're getting ready to soak these seeds, they have to be about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's coming right into the spring right now, getting ready. They take about 10, 12 days to crack open, and then you can start to plant them or do something with them at that point. I let them soak for about 24 hours here in the glass container. Just drain the water off, and you can see they're really nice and moist there. That paper, if you will, that's actually part of the seed, soaks up that water, and when they fall off the tree, they almost drive themselves into the ground there. So now what I'm doing is I'm just re-irrigating this every day and trying to get these seeds to sprout out. I'm hoping that at least 50 to 100 of these will crack open, and then we can do quite a few things lining the balcony. As I said earlier, the beach over in the far end of that west-facing photo that you saw, it's a rocky beach, but there's a lot of beautiful stones out there, creating a little Zen garden up on the deck as well. Now, the whole thing about it is try to automate now the system to be able to grow vegetables faster and be able to automate the process to be able to literally run it like a bicycle chain. Once it's in there, after week 6, week 7, and 8, you're just trimming and it's continually regrowing. So it's coconut fiber on the inside of the vertical grow tubes here. This is from Taiwan Hydroponics. Same person I did with Rob many months ago. The interview about their company and what these systems are, and we went out and toured some hydroponic facilities around Taiwan. You can check that out in the playlist. Now, we went to assemble this together, and it's quite easy to put together once you understand how it goes, where these things hang, and you notice that the coconut fiber is right in the center of the tube there. So we broke this up into 3 different types of tubes. One is a year old, second is a 6-month-old tube, so the coconut has had enough time to absorb, and then we have some brand new coconut, and here's how this thing goes together. And in fashion, it just sits on a frame. Once you get the frame all up and running, it's just about attaching the tubes. The green box is where the nutrient mix goes in, along with the motor to pump the water up. It's gravity fed, goes into that tubing above, and it drips straight down, collects below, and then runs back into the green box on the right there. Gets pumped back up on a motor time system. We're at 15 minutes on, 2 hours off at the moment, and things are starting to fill out. Coconut fiber is the way to go. We're using another different substrate in the furthest. That's Ganura wilting there. We found this new type of substrate made out of plastic, just does not hold the water to allow the roots to grab and establish themselves very well. And you can see everything that's there, the Ganura, the basil, none of it's taking. So any types of plastics, you're going to be looking for natural fibers to be able to hold the water. And a closer look at the basil, you can see that thing withered and wilted away. No hope for that. So always go for the natural fibers if you're going to. So when I said that we had one tube that was a year old, that is the one that looks the wettest, and that's on purpose there. This is being cured already, where this water has been flowing through. Roots took really well in this, and you can start to see, just even after the first week, how they started to pop out after they cracked the seed. Then moving through, try to take the next week, and I want to show you the progression of just how quickly these things can start to grow. We got 4 different types of lettuces up on the tubes there, and they get larger week by week, and we have been trimming leaves. So the photos you're seeing, you know, at times we do trim off, and that's some of what you've seen in the previous photos, either laying in the colander or in that bag. And we've decided to let it go for a full another week before we even touch this. I want to see really how large we can get some of these lettuce varieties moving forward. And the tubes are starting to fill out really well. And again, this is just a single month after. I even have a couple types of spearmint, peppermints in there, see if we can get that going, because they really grew well in a couple other persons that I've seen with these vertical grow systems. Now you notice the plant's growing below. That's because if there's any water leakage, it just goes right in. Also helps with the plant. It's all about recirculating the water and being smart with if you have a limited resource. But you check out different types of greens. This bok choy on the bottom there, starting to fill out. Eventually will come with those more white stems and really chunky white stems at the bottom. Wanted to see what we can do with so many different types. So as we move forward, if one doesn't work, we're just going to switch it out and take notes and see what works best in these types of new systems. So what you're looking at here on the left side is the ganura that's really starting to fill out well. There's two types of ganura. It's a longevity plant that the Chinese use in zhongyao, which is natural medicine for China. The purple variety and also the green. Again, these are longevity herbs. And then you're looking at the cowpeas that you saw sprouted earlier. Now once they started off and they were about, I don't know, 2 to 3 inches tall, we ended up retransplanting a couple of them in the tubes here. But you can see the progression from the bottom left into the top right. Now as these things take off, we're going to try to get some bamboo stanchion in there and let them see where we can get them to spread through the summer. But as you see, there was a leak in one of the pipes, but look how much better it's growing with the lettuce right there in terms of to the right or left where it's not getting as much water. It's a slow drip feed, it's a slow actual leak, so taking advantage of these things as we're moving through, learning how this all works. Now space is a consideration out on this balcony, obviously. It was kind of cluttered, it wasn't so good looking, so we started to think about how to take all the extra clutter away, especially when you're in there trying to trim off the tubes, kicking some plants. What we ended up doing was using a terrace system here, literally just steps, so we could get some of the plants out of the way and make them a little more ergonomic and also give them different light. And you can see the tubes on the left there starting to fill out as well, the plants below, a lot of lettuces and different types of spices that we're growing. Now that's now, this is after 30 days. So progressing into the future with Christian with Ice Age Farmers saw some good videos what he's doing with grow bags. So we ordered 40 different grow bags about the same size. We're going to line the entire edge of the deck with these, and then on the left there we're going to go with these vertical towers, and you can either take them apart, you can space them. So we want to work with a couple different growing techniques over the next month as well. We're going to keep adding different things in, see what works, what doesn't work, but that's the whole point of it. Grow some of your own food, be able to have enough to trade with others, and then just keep experimenting and see what happens. Now, what you're looking here, this is not pollution, this is fog. So we're contending with off the windy coast, and the amount of fog coming through some days is incredible. It's almost like rainfall itself, moistening the plants. But you can see here, this is the 14th floor where my balcony is, but the cloud cover and mist cover coming through, mesmerizing, hypnotizing, and stunning. Just a way to feel nature. It's almost like an air spa as you're breathing in this negative ion charged air. Get you a chance to think about moving forward with this grand solar minimum. You know, if I'm doing this to experiment to be able to grow food and then try to scale this out from one 8-set tube up to something like 32 or 64 tubes, you should also be thinking about the same thing, how to mechanize your food growing production, because if you have the skill to assemble this, get the food growing, understand how to repair it, this is a skill set that is so valuable, you'll be welcomed into any community, period. If you're the one able to help grow food at that level, this is a skill set you need to learn hands down. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Please remember to visit our sponsors, My Patriot Supply long-term food storage. Now remember, the long-term food storage is not 100% of what you're eating. You're going to be adding in these types of vegetables on top of this so that stockpile that you have lasts even longer. As well as TrueLeafMarket.com, heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on the planet. So any of the lettuces or varieties of ganura, basils, mint, and everything you saw tonight is available at TrueLeafMarket.com. You can sprout your own. Go to the sprouting section. They have guides on how to sprout. So if you don't know what you're doing, these guides are free. TrueLeafMarket.com. The link's in the description box below. If you want to support this channel, it's a great way you can purchase some seeds. It is springtime. It's time for you to learn how to grow food to grand solar minimums at our doorstep. And our agriculture is having a very difficult time this year across the planet. It's going to intensify. Weather systems are changing. You're on your own. This is a great start. Please learn how to grow your own food. If you got anything out of this video, learn how to grow your own food. And if you're unfamiliar with what a grand solar minimum is, Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast, 30 minutes on the go, explaining what is happening, how it's going to intensify, affect your life, and how you can protect your families moving forward. And as always, the rundown on the Adapt 2030 social media for those of you who like your information delivered in a snippet of 1 minute or under.